Willie, I know you're an avid watcher of the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel. Send him to the Ballymore, please. Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. Today, at the time of recording, it's 2 weeks until the day of the Champion Chase, so probably feeling a bit worse for wear after the night before, but we'll be buzzing for the racing, and I'm very much looking forward to, in this video, looking at those handicap marks that we discussed on the previous video, seeing what we fancy, as well as do a bit of a Q&A. We asked for some questions over on Twitter, so we're looking forward to getting into those, just counting down those days.
Yeah, exactly. When the handicap weights came out the other day, I've never seen such a rush on racing Twitter of people looking for weights, looking for links to BHA admin websites. I was fiending around what marks, smoking gun got, all of this. But it's all great fun, and you try to get a few bets off before maybe the bookies try and cop on to some of these ones. But very interesting with the horses we were kind of touching on in the previous video. I'm sure we'll touch on again now and see where they've gone and what chances they have respectively, and whether there might be a springer or two, because there are a few interestingly handicapped horses.
A couple of things. On Monday the 7th, we are joining up with the Jumps show. The link will be down in the description for a Cheltenham Festival preview live stream. We'll be answering questions, going through handicaps, going through the big races as well. So feel free to tune into that. We've got Dan, Jake and Willow on that. Very much looking forward to it. The link will be down in the description. And then also, there is a certain final on Friday evening. And our very own Andrew Blair White is one of the finalists. It's the Tipstar Racing TV final. This time they're looking for, a presenter with charisma, lovely voice. How did you make it to the final?
Yeah, I've no idea. I don't tick any of the boxes, so don't know how I've managed to swindle my way in. But I've very good support from everybody. I've managed to put up 2 winners as well, which is even more of a nosebleed. There's Milton Harrison and Chris Gordon. I both owe them a point for Awk and Risk last week. Don't know how he beat Shall We Have One More, but he went and did it. Look, we'll see what happens on Friday. Win or lose, it's been a good fun.
Mullenbeg was a brilliant pick in the bumper at Cheltenham a couple of months ago, but then that it did make me laugh. And we've got to be honest. You messaged me of like, God, I've got the Dovecote. It's an awful race to preview. I think you probably thought Shall We Have One More would be difficult to stop. So you played the safe card, put Awk and Risk each way at 7-2, and it won. How good is that? But before we do get into the video, please do hit that like button, get your comments down below, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But let's get into it. The big talking points from the handicaps weight reveal. State Man is one of the horses that we have to talk about. He got a mark of 141. Now, in the previous video, we thought, would he get into the Martin Pipe? Would he be forced to go something down the county hurdle route, or would he be too high altogether for a handicap and would have to go down a grade 1 route? He's got 141. It's definitely lower than we both expected. I saw a few people on Twitter as well saying it was higher than they expected, and it was just purely on reputation. I'm not so sure about that. Where do you think he's going to run?
I think he's going to run in a handicap. Look, it would be remiss of Willie Mullins. He's already got 5 or 6 in the Supreme. He's got Bring on the Night for the same connections as well, that not more than likely will now go to the Supreme. So I see no reason to suggest why he won't take up one of his handicap engagements. Personally speaking, I'd say he'll rock up in the county hurdle. I see no reason to go up in trip with him. I know people are trying to maybe put 2 and 2 together with Richie Deegan's booking the last day. I know I've done that a little bit before, and say whether he might go to the Martin Pipe, but I think the county hurdle maybe screams the more likely option and the more pressing option. And I suppose Sam Wall won the race off 139 a couple of years ago. Not a dissimilar profile as well, coming from winning a pretty Mickey Mouse maiden hurdle. Very hard to equate, but this could be a genuine grade 1, maybe grade 2 horse in time to come. So 141 probably is lenient enough, and if he can handle the hustle and bustle of a county hurdle, you'd think he'd be right there.
I think whichever handicap he goes in, I'll definitely be siding with him. I would also agree as well. I think he's more likely to go into the county. I just feel that Willie's got plenty of options that he could chuck at the Martin Pipe. The likes of Deploy the Getaway, who got 140, I thought that was very fair. Adamantly Chosen could go there, or maybe he could go here as well. But Willie's got plenty to work with. Ganapathy as well in the 2.5 mile race. So maybe they might think, 2 miles 1 around Cheltenham might be more up his street rather than going up in trip, because I don't think he lacks speed as well. I'd love him to go to the county hurdle, and I think he is still 7-1 non-runner no bet to do so. That might be a fair price. Lange Dan, the rival in the Martin Pipe. Now, he wasn't an Irish horse, but we need to talk about him because he's been dropped £3 after his return the other day to 137.
I just think both between Mark Johnson, who called Lange Dan home in second last year in the Martin Pipe, and the BHA handicapper must have some hefty wagers on this horse. Because how on earth they've... Like, when Dan Skelton, like, to be fair to Dan, he pretty much said, we're going to Taunton to run around, and came last, and they've dropped him £3. I don't see how on earth they've come to that conclusion. Maybe the English handicapper is so desperate for a winner, the lucky last, that he's just said, screw all of this, get Lange Dan in there and get him well handicapped.
Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it, especially £3 as well. I've been lucky enough to co-run a syndicate with Under Le Seigneur, and she's ran far worse races than he ran the other day, and she's been dropped 1. How is that a thing? Couldn't believe it. Absolutely couldn't believe it. It makes the job easier, but I'm still not convinced with him for some reason. I'm just not convinced with him. At 137 will be interesting. Does it make you feel like he could win?
I suppose he's got a good chance. I think he'll run very well. I think he'll be bang there. I just still think, I stand by what I said in the previous video. I think he's a well handicapped handicapper, and I think there could be a few well handicapped graded horses from Ireland running in the race. And if I was to back Lange Dan against, State Man, Adamantly Chosen, Chemical Energy, I'd back any of the Irish horses against him, personally speaking. And I think 5-1, 9-2, look, if he goes and wins, fair play to Connections, but he can win at that price for me.
Chemical Energy, 137. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he looks like a nice type for the race. He's been put away. You see with a lot of these Gordon horses that they've been put away from kind of quite a while out, and they're fresh going into Cheltenham. I think that's a good angle to be looking at. Obviously, your friend Buddy Rich is in that boat. Falcano is a horse I like a lot. For either the Martin Pipe or the Pertemps is in that boat. Tully Beg for the Pertemps in that boat. So I think it's a very interesting way that Gordon is campaigning these horses, and I'd be very surprised if these horses weren't well tuned up to run well come their respective handicap races.
I was wrong about Frontal Assault and Grand Parody. They both got in just off 145, and I did think it was interesting actually, because the morning before the weights came out, Gordon Elliott was talking about the plate, the 2.5 mile race for Grand Parody, and I think that was in anticipation that he thinks he would be rated too high. It wouldn't surprise me if he changed from that and then decided to go up and trip to the Kim Muir, because I know they were thinking about that before. The Juveniles and the Boodles, and the Tide Turns got 137, Britska 130, HMS Seahorse 128, and Champion Green very low at the bottom off 125. A surprise with that. What did you make of those?
Yeah, I thought your lad Champion Green was very well treated actually. I thought he'd get a bit more of a hype than 125. He's been left alone. Considering the horse he beat the last day, I think would have won at Naas last Sunday. He ended up tipping up at the last, an Anthony McCann horse, but I think there's a likely chance off that type of mark. Obviously the fly in the ointment is this Gaelic Warrior of 129. He could be anything. Obviously there's so much talk about him. Again, you can let him win at the prices he is. I remember this time last year everyone telling me Hugh Gree had around 2 stone in hand in the Fred Winter, and he may well have done so, but he still came 4th. Riviere d'Hotel came 7th in the race. She's a grade 1 chaser this year. In terms of HMS Seahorse, very happy with 128. It's got a good £9 swing with the Tide Turns for 2.5 lengths earlier in the season. 12-1 I think is a cracking price. I think they'll be very happy with that. He'll get into the race, low weight, good chance.
Yeah, I really hope Champion Green gets in, because he would be competitive at 125. Britska 130 I thought was lenient as well. And with regards to Gaelic Warrior, I know we touched on it before. I'm slowly coming around to the fact that he probably is ridiculously well handicapped. And the vibes, I know last night on Nick Luck's podcast, Joe Chambers, the racing manager to Rich Ritchie, came out and said he had a French mark of 139 and they just wanted to test the waters. They gave him 129. And then ever since then, the plan has been the Boodles, because they actually thought that if he wasn't going to run in the Boodles off a low weight, they would skip the Triumph because they got Vauban, and Gaelic Warrior would be next year's Supreme Novice Hurdle horse. That scares me a little bit. Because if they think he's that good, he might be pretty decent off 129 as a 4-year-old. If I was on at 20-1, I obviously wouldn't be saying this, but at 5-2, I don't think he's a bet, personally. And he might go off shorter. We're going to discuss it later. Let's then talk about Deploy the Getaway 140. Fair enough?
Yeah, very fair. Looks like he might have a chance. I'd say the Martin Pipe will end up be his call, and maybe somebody like Conor McNamara, Jack Foley. As I say, I've mentioned all these conditionals that could ride for Willie Mullins and could ride for Gordon Elliott. Jockey bookings can sometimes be key in the boys' race, so one to look out for.
Hollow Games, because I know he got a mark of 143. Do you reckon Gordo could be tempted to run him in the Pipe?
I saw that, and I suppose there's probably something that's in the back of his mind. At the end of the day, though, the Morans have so many horses that they've kind of got options for every race, and you'd think they don't have another option for the Bartlett, considering they seem to be running Ginto in the Ballymore. You might as well let him take his chance. They've got the likes of Volcano, potentially O'Fleuron that could run in the Martin Pipe. They're not short on runners. But no, I did see that, and I was very interested. I saw Burning Victory was off 145. Like, she could be running in the Martin. Now, she won't run in the Martin Pipe, obviously. Don't quote that or anything like that. But I was thinking, Jesus, like, how on earth has she gotten a weight that could get her into the Martin Pipe?
I completely agree. It's ridiculous. Right, now, the important topics. Buddy Rich, 144. Happy or not?
Yeah, happy enough. He'll be in off a low enough weight. I'd say Sky Pirates will hold his ground off 150 something. He'll get a fair swing of the weight. He'll be either high 10 stones, early 11 stones. It's down to the horse from here, Josh. We've talked him up big enough.
I did want to mention, I went to a preview night and Davy Russell was there this week, and I asked him about Buddy Rich, and I was encouraged and not encouraged at the same time, because he basically said, lovely horse, the plan has been the Grand Annual, Gordon loves him, but he would have slight reservations that if it got into a real battle, which hopefully it doesn't, he'd have slight reservations about his attitude to really see it through. I think he thinks he's going to travel very well, but it's about what he finds. So I'm hoping that he finds plenty. He's done nothing to suggest he won't, but it would be a slight concern. I was a bit disappointed when I heard that. I wanted to hear, Josh, this thing. And I was like, oh, cheers, Davey. Let's then move on to questions, and we've got plenty to fire through. This one's from AJ Brown. He says, I would love you guys to have an Irish versus English Lucky 15 battle. Cheers, AJ. Thank you very much. So I've got to pick horses that are purely British trained, and you've got to pick horses that are Irish trained to make a Lucky 15. Go on.
Yeah, well, I've tried to mix it up, so I haven't gone for the ones perhaps people were expecting. I could have sunk you. I could have backed all the absolute certs out there, but instead, look, got Bardenstown Lad in there. You can still somehow get 14-1. Why are people not mopping up 14-1? I don't understand it. You can also still get 14-1 on Smoking Gun of 140, which I must say we didn't mention it in the handicap weights there. Smoking Gun of 140, almost got a semi-horn looking at that. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I thought he'd be 143, 144. And then two at smaller prices that I quite like. Brandy Love, Keeping the Faith, 5-2 for the...
Go on, you got to continue with that.
Brandy Love, 5-2 for the Mare's Novice Hurdle. I'm keeping the faith with her. I've backed her all year. I think also Allegory Devassi's out of the race as of yesterday morning, so she should have a great chance. And the Stayers Hurdle, keeping cool on Flooring Porter at 7-2 for Gavin Cromwell. I think Gavin Cromwell's yard are bubbling under the surface at the moment and could have a good Cheltenham, so fingers crossed that's the case.
Sorry to be crude, but only Andrew Blair White could get a semi looking at handicap marks. Jesus. Oh, that is inappropriate. Okay, my four, and this was a stretch. This was a proper stretch to put these together. We don't have a lot of runners, let alone winners. I've gone for the Fantastic Ass at 16-1 in the Ultima. I quite fancy him anyway. I've gone for Call Me Lord at 40-1 at a massive price in the Coral Cup. Just think he could run well. And I think 40-1 is too big. If he comes back to anywhere near his best, he'll go mightily close, and it wouldn't surprise me. Champ at 9-2 in the Stayers Hurdle was actually quite encouraged because Davy Russell went over to ride a Pied Piper in the Triumph Trial, and he said he was in the parade ring that day that Champ got beat, and there was quite a bit of condition on him, so he expects Nicky to really improve him from there. So I was happy with that one. And then just to chuck him in, because Galopin de Champs is more than likely going to go for the 2.5 mile race, Brave Man's Game at 7-4. He jumps spectacularly well. I think he'll stay, and 7-4 might not be the worst price in the world if those two don't run. So they're my 4: Fantastic Ass, Call Me Lord, Champ, and Brave Man's Game. If I was going to do a lucky 15, I'd definitely do it each way. The next question is from Dan, and he says, which 3 handicap marks were much higher than you expected, and by how much? Call Me Lyrene, 152. I thought that was quite harsh. Fury Road, 160. Not a 160 horse. I know he's rated 152 in Ireland, and he is a good horse, but 155 for Andy Dufresne in the Grand Annual was quite steep as well. He'd have to be a seriously good horse to win that off that mark. So they'd be my 3.
Yeah, well, as I say, the one thing that everyone saw first was the Ultima, obviously, and Fury Road being off 160. Now, based off that logic, he's £5 off being in the Gold Cup this year, which I can't understand whatsoever. I thought, in similar vein to you with Andy Dufresne, I know I talked him up on the previous video, couldn't believe your man still managed to knock a couple of pounds onto the shunter over fences. He's off 152 in Ireland, he's 155 for the plate and the Ultima, and he's been given 148 for the Coral Cup, which I actually quite like. I think he might go back over hurdles, but I thought 155. I thought they'd keep him at 152 or 153 perhaps, as he wasn't greatly handicapped. And I know it's probably, you know, some people are bouncing up and down about this horse. I don't think, based off what he's done, that Frontal Assault deserves to be 145, really. I think he's, you know, some people might say he's still very well handicapped. I don't see it, to be honest. I don't see the angle behind the horse, really. And if I'm being honest, I'd have had him in at 142, 143 myself.
Quite controversial there. Interesting. Curtis Wooldridge says, what's your opinion on I Wright going to the Gold Cup instead of the Ultima?
Well, obviously, connections are, you know, they have to roll the dice. He's off 159. Can't win the Ultima off 159, I'm afraid. So, fair enough. Harriet Graham, crack on. The horse is a great horse. You'd love to own him, and if he ran and came 5th or 6th in the Gold Cup, you'd probably pick up 10, 15 grand. So.
Why not? If I had a 159 chaser that's not going to win the Ultima, I'd run him in the Gold Cup. He stays 3 miles. He might be there. He might be something like a Giant Bolsters, which finishes 3rd or 4th. You have your day out. You say, yeah, I owned a horse that finished 3rd in the Gold Cup. You never know. You absolutely never know. Not devoid of ability. Gavin Smith asked, I'd welcome both of your thoughts on Cider Burley for the Pertemps. Same prep as when he won it 2 years back for the second time, and it was a great second in the Stayers last year. And I also believe Rob James is going to claim £7 off him. He looks a graded horse in a handicap for me, and I'm all over it.
Yeah, I suppose it's very similar profile. Just obviously, I was there at Leopardstown over Christmas when he just ran like he hated the game. I don't know, Gordon's going to have done something to sweeten him back up since then and get him rocking and rolling. Rob James, I think, will ride him. I think that was what Gordon came out with the other day, and I don't know how Rob James is still claiming £7. He's brilliant value for that. He's one of the best amateur riders around. But for me, he's a bit old at this stage, Cider Burley. He's never been a horse that I've really got really into, so it wouldn't be for me, but I suppose I can see somewhat of an angle there.
I completely agree with Rob James. His rider, Milan native. What a man. Tom asks, of 151, would you run Core Sublime in the Grand Annual or take your chance in the Arkle? I think you take your chance in the Arkle. I know 151 is tempting, but the Arkle this year is wide open. Core Sublime is a graded winner over hurdles. He might even be a grade 1 winner over hurdles, and he's not without talent. He bumped into Fernie Hollow on his first start. He's won since. Why not go for it? I think, why not?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you there. This horse doesn't do it for me at all. He reminds me of Paloma Blue a few years ago. I'd run him in the Arkle because it's a poor race, could go to an outsider, and I'd give him absolutely no chance of winning the Grand Annual off 151.
The next question is from Robbie, and he says, what SP will Gaelic Warrior have? I saw Josh saying on Twitter that you can let him win at 5-2, but I think that might be a big price on the day. What price is Gaelic Warrior going to go off?
Could he go off 7-4? 6-4 perhaps? If Mullins has had a good day, When you think about it, he could have won the Supreme, could have won the Arkle. If Appreciate It runs well in the Champion Hurdle, there'll be a few people rolling on to Gaelic Warrior, and that price will come in and in. I'm like you, because I think what you're saying is correct, because I don't think you should back him at 5-2. I don't think you should back him at 7-4. To be honest, 5-2 horses in 25 runner 4-year-old handicap hurdles, geez, you're not going to get rich backing those horses.
I would say 2-1 he'll go off. I think what will happen is he'll plummet. He might go into 6-4, and then on the day they might ease him out a bit because they think they're going to take him on first start for Willie, first start at Cheltenham, travelling, big field handicap, 4-year-old handicap hurdle at Cheltenham. Not going to be easy. He's going to have to be seriously good to win it. Simon Merrick asks, is John Bon going to drift or shorten in the lead up to the Supreme? I would say he'll shorten until the day, and then half an hour before the race, because he can get quite buzzy, and I imagine he's not going to look the most calm or relaxed horse. He'll do a bit of a shishkin when he won the Supreme and go right out. I could see him going off 6-1, 13-2.
Yeah, I can see your point on that. Just also a word on the Supreme market. If you do like Constitution Hill, I know he's not a horse for the two of us, but fair enough if people do want to do like him. I would not back him in a fit at 2-1 right now, because there's not a hope in hell this horse SPs as Fav or SPs anywhere close to 2-1. I think he'll be the exact same. I think you could get even 4-1 on the day, because there's no way that the Supreme is going off without whichever one of the Mullins horses not going off SP Fav.
Especially if it's a go hard, but I do hope he runs in the Ballymore. What about you?
Yeah, I'm flip-flopping. I'm getting... Willie's throwing me a bone here with my 25-1 Ballymore on Dysart Dynamo. It might actually happen. So, I don't know. If I was, personally speaking, I'd be running Dysart Dynamo in the Supreme and Sir Gard in the Ballymore, because I just think that's just the way I'd see it. I think Sir Gerhard's more of a relaxed, settled horse that could dictate in the Ballymore, but obviously Willie Mullins knows an awful lot more about training horses and placing horses than I do, so I'll leave the master to make those decisions himself.
I knew I always liked you. That's exactly what he should do. That's exactly what Willie Mullins should do. Willie, I know you're an avid watcher of the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel. Send him to the Ballymore, please. The final question is from Steve Downs, and he asks, is Kilcrook potentially another Champagne Fever in the Supreme Novice Hurdle?
Not sure he's that similar a horse to Champagne Fever, but I think there'll be money around for Kilcrook. I think he'll shorten in price. I think he'll end up being the preview night wise guys each way bet for the race. I think he'll run well. We said it before when he was a bigger price a couple of weeks ago that this horse could still come in the frame, and I stand by that. I think he could upset a few horses.
Short and sweet video on the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel. If you did enjoy it, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you soon.